Hello, Internet. I am Corione, your witch in residence here on YouTube. And there was a movie that I've been meaning to watch for years, and then I finally got a free evening and I decided to watch it. And that movie is The Maze Runner. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with it, the basic concept is a young man wakes up and he's riding an elevator up into this gladed area where there are all kids his own age. The glade is surrounded by this massive maze that changes routinely and monsters live in. And the only thing that anyone in the glade remembers from their time before the maze is their name. And it got me thinking. The movie asks, I think, an important question, which is your memories or your inherent nature more important to you as the person you are? Now, before we sit down and examine that, I would just like to ask, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. It really helps us out here on YouTube, as well as giving a like and getting the video shared out to someone. If you can each just get one person to join our little community here, we can manage to make this grow into something really fantastic. I would really appreciate the help. I know other YouTubers out there would also really appreciate the help if you're so inclined. So with that obligatory ritual out of the way, let's go ahead and dig into The Maze Runner. Now, the thing with The Maze Runner is, because they wake up with no memories and yet have to find their place in society and see who they interact with and how, it starts asking some interesting questions. Because if you didn't have your memories to inform you about your decisions, to inform you about how you behave and work with others, what decides that? And the movie makes it clear that, in a kind of an after a fashion, that each of us have our own internal natural inclinations on how we behave and to act accordingly. For example, the main character, Thomas, is incredibly smart, incredibly inquisitive, and a problem solver, and thus is ideally suited to dealing with the harsh realities of the maze. But other people are builders or farmers or even warriors. And it brings up some interesting questions about where does that drive, where does that desire come from? Is it societal pressure? Is it something internal? And I would like to argue that I think there is something internal to that as to who you are. I think that there is, personally, I believe anyway, that there is an inherent goodness to people. There is an inherent genuineness to what your inclinations are going to be in people. You know, there's a reason why we ask young kids who really don't have the experience to answer the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I think because all of us are naturally drawn to certain areas. As an example, I absolutely find biology disgusting. Okay. Any science where the science experiment gets to lick you back, I'm not a fan of. But I do recognize how important a role it is in society, and I do think that the people who do it have a far stronger constitution than I do, and I am very thankful for them. That being said, I would make a very poor doctor, I personally think. But I think what I'm doing here on YouTube, I do a pretty good job of. So perhaps it is in my nature to be that storyteller, that debater, that Roman senator reincarnated. And if that's the case, I think we see that on display in this as well. And it makes me wonder about the internalized behavior of certain people. That, you know, sometimes it isn't past trauma that's influencing what we do today. And I think it's important to discuss that, have that inner monologue with yourself about who you are and what you want and why you want what you want. Because even if experience is informing your actions, those actions were informed by previous experiences, which were formed by previous experiences, which were ultimately informed by your nature. So while nurture is absolutely important, when trying to understand who you are, I think nature is a very important part, and I think it's something that we should focus on. So the question becomes, how does one get in touch with their nature? Well, I would start by doing what I would call an emotional audit. Pick a situation that has occurred to yourself. Um, Perhaps something recent, like you got upset at a fast food person because they got your order wrong. Okay. And then try to figure out why. And once you have an idea of why this one behavior bothered you, then start pulling apart why that behavior bothers you and just bring it down to the most basic terms. It may be that the reason why it bothered you is because you're infuriated simply because they took so long and still didn't get the job right. And that might be because you just don't have a lot of patience. And if that's the case, if anything, that encourages you to work on that patience as an example, right? We all have stuff we can work on. And if we start looking at the core stuff in our nature, we can solve the root cause of those reasons. And that will just spiral into better behavior for yourself and for others around you right from the get-go. And it may be that the stuff you have to work on is so minor. And for the truth of the matter, a lot of it is going to be. But at least you know it, and you've worked on it internally, and you've done what you need to do to grow as a human being. And that is super important. I think the next step also would be to sit down and perhaps even consider doing something that sounds crazy but actually makes a lot of sense, and that's talking to yourself in a mirror. Look at yourself and start asking that question. Who are you? What are you living for? What is the thing that drives you forward? And then ask why it drives you forward. I remember a friend of mine who got involved in the military, and when asked why they chose to live a military life, they mentioned because it was traditions of their family. And I asked them then, if they didn't join the military, what would they have done? And they hadn't really thought about it. And I said, so you've kind of let your family tradition dictate who you are. But I'm curious as to who you are under that tradition. Who are you under that family responsibility? And it turned out that they realized that they were very much a family person. And the reason why they joined the military and why they felt this tradition was important to them was because they were so in touch with their family. And it actually helped them realize that even though sometimes, like on a, say, Thanksgiving weekend, that while they might disagree with their family, it was super important that they made the attempt and worked on their family and worked with their family. And it provided them kind of a new perspective that maybe their purpose in life is to be the caregiver in their family, and wound up leading to a much more fulfilling life role for them. So it's something to consider. And then the last thing, of course, I would suggest is if you really want to try something extreme, consider when the weather is amenable to it, go and camp by yourself out in the wild, because you'll learn things about yourself, if you do it safely, of course, that you won't be able to hide from when you're out there on your own, alone for a protracted period of time. And perhaps just sitting down by a campfire and thinking on yourself, meditating on the familiar, if you will. You'll discover new things about yourself and who you are and what you want and why you want those things, where you're going, who you wish to serve and who you wish to trust. Because at the end of the day, those are ultimately the most important questions one can ask themselves, and can lead to fantastic places of self-discovery and enlightenment and really wonder. And as you know, I'm very much about magic on this channel, and I define magic as generating wonder. So if I can help you generate wonder for yourself, then I think that's a wonderful thing to do. And I think all of you would definitely enjoy that journey of self-discovery as I have. I've learned a lot about myself through these kind of techniques. Goodness knows sometimes I've run into stuff that I didn't really like, but it was important to understand that stuff so I could make choices that would lead to better things down the road, and I think they have. So I would like to share that gift with you guys. If you get the chance, please check out The Maze Runner. It's an interesting movie. Um, it asks a lot of interesting questions, and I think it's worth checking out. Um, it does get kind of YA novelty at times, so if YA boys' stories don't really resonate with you, I completely understand. But let's keep the comments in the chat more about what we learn about ourselves and what we want to work on and how we want to go about doing so. Because I think even movies that we may not resonate with entirely can have some really awesome lessons for us if we choose to listen. And I think it's worth taking a look. I think it's worth trying to learn that lesson. And I would love you all to take that journey of self discovery with me, if that's even possible. So please go ahead and give it a try. Please come check it out. Um, Additionally, as per the request of the amazing and wonderful Cameron Pasha, he has put out a request that this transmission from the Rogue Council are kind of not conspiracy, but definitely woo-woo style show that we do live, remain up for an extra couple of days. So I am leaving this one up for a full week. Please go ahead and give it a try. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you liked about the episode. Tell me what you didn't. Anything is valid. No theory will go unresolved in the Rogue Council. Please go ahead and check it out. Guys, I just want to say thank you again for stopping by. I'm going to close off the video now. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.